I forgot to thank an important partner, which is DFID, that has been helping us finance this analysis in the Western Balkans over the last 3 years. So I think personally we needed to thank them. To sum it up again, I mean, I think it's very important to understand that when we talk about this system that is poorly targeted, this cash system, we're talking about a lot of money. In the Federation budget in 2008, we were talking about 165 million km. More, 650 million km, which is about 42% of that budget. It's a lot of money that goes into these programs, and we wished they had the strength and the capacity to reach a larger share of the poor. There are some of these cash transfers programs, particularly the veterans programs, where the bottom fifth receives 17% of this program, and the top fifth, which means the richest group, 27%. It should be the other way around. We advocate that if someone is invalid, particularly because of the war, the state should recognize that person and assist the person. The point is that there's a difference, I think, between a rich invalid with jobs and source of income, and someone who cannot support his family. And this is the critical point. I think this is what we as World Bank are working with the authorities. I'm not yet sure that it's widely understood, and particularly it's widely understood in parliaments, but we think it's a critical issue for the future of this country. Sorry for the parenthesis.
Are you suggesting that expenditure should remain at the same level but be better targeted? Or are you suggesting that by better targeting, you could both reduce the total amount of expenditure and benefit poorer people more?
Well, there are two issues in the problem. One is equity, and from our perspective is the number one. Improve targeting to reach more people. The second issue is fiscal. You cannot afford these amounts. Obviously, the adjustment can happen over time, and improved targeting can help you reduce the size, the overall sizes. So the answer is yes to both. Improved targeting with the first objective of improving equity in the system and achieving some savings over time. It will not happen overnight, but over time. There are, however, efficiencies that can be gained overnight with audits, eligibility audits, both on the civilians and the veteran side, could have a positive fiscal impact because we understand the system is abused. So the current system is abused. The numbers have swollen, and a careful audit can help reduce that. Another measure that has some fiscal impact is taking a look at legislation such as the legislation that is currently active in the Federation that grants extra unemployment benefits to demobilize unemployed soldiers. That grants unemployment benefits that are 2 or 3 times higher than if you are belonging to any other category of unemployed. And what we are advocating is provide unemployment service to this category, but let it be the same level of unemployment benefits. Those are expensive.
What is missing, into my opinion, since you did a very good analysis and since the World Bank is monitoring what our governments in Bosnia and Herzegovina and entity are undertaking under World Bank and IMF recommendations, so what is missing is your focus and projections for 2010. 1 month of 2010 has already passed, and I think that now situation is even worse than in 2000 now. So what is missing for me are your forecast. Let them be realistic, let them be even pessimistic, because that can help Parliament representatives to take more serious approach in addressing, I would say, not this situation, but this tragedy.
Thank you. Well, as you saw, the forecast for 2010, and I think that's still the latest forecast we have, is for growth, minimal growth, say 0.5%. 0.5% of growth. So for the rest of it, you were mentioning the type of measures that Marco discussed. We did do the same simulations that we tried to estimate what would be their impact on poverty. And overall, we think that they could contribute to poverty reduction. And this is because, as Marco was explaining, lots of this money is actually not reaching those most in need. They're not reaching the little lady I saw in the street last night. And these are the people we should really care about.
And if I may add, there are no signs of clear sign of recovery yet that we have captured. So yes, there's some good news. Europe, the outside world seems to send some positive signals, and those signals eventually will be good news for Bosnia and Herzegovina through the trade channels, exports. But we don't have any clear sign that we are out of the crisis and we are in a recovery phase. So it's very important to be cautious and continue to focus on the real issues, how to restart the growth engine and how to protect the most vulnerable. So I would not listen to prophets that would say, oh, it's over, or we are different than the rest of the region at this stage.
To thank you very much for the presentation of the report and also for the initial analysis that you're doing of the impact of the crisis. Something I wanted to point out, which comes out in this report and comes out actually in any report about poverty and impact of the crisis, is the impact that it has on children and on youth. We could see some of the indicators, for example, relative to employment, which is already extremely high for youth. And we know that when there is a crisis, the impact is going to be higher on youth and on children. So I would really like to insist, and I know that the strategy is taking this into account, and I'm really glad about it, but the need to really focus in any criteria that we use for targeting to focus on children and youth, because those are the ones which are most affected, so it's important for the safety net. And also the second reason, it's also important to break the cycle of poverty, because as you're stating in this report, poverty is closely linked to the education of the parents. So investing in children, youth, and everything which is related to it, education and safety net processes, I think it's essential actually to break this cycle also for the future. Thank you.
Actually, if I may add, this report is very comprehensive, and I gave a very quick presentation. But there is, we also look at indicators of non-monetary poverty, such as, for example, attendance in school of children. And it's clear that there have been improvements in the recent past, but those have been concentrated among the richest groups. So we are seriously concerned about what the crisis might be doing.